This is deeply hypocritical coming from Republicans who love child beauty pageants and child marriages and pedophilia and abolishing the age of consent. All right, we're going to move on to Republicans and their agitprop against LGBT. This isn't exactly news, or new news rather, more so a reinforcement of prior established attitudes. Here, let's watch. I'll be back in a second.
When did our public schools, any schools, become what are essentially grooming centers for gender identity radicals?
That is the latest GOP talking point. Republicans are now claiming that education, or even just conversations around gender identity and sexual orientation in schools or television programming, is a form of grooming children to become LGBTQ+. This argument has surfaced in discussions of a recently passed Florida bill that, in part, prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels or in a specified manner.
If you really want to talk to a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old about their sexuality and gender, that's on you. You're a pervert. You're a weirdo. I don't give a damn if you're a teacher.
Like maybe teach the kids to read before you tell them to go trans.
Look, there's a reason why the Democrats are treating this bill like it's the apocalypse. All we're telling them is you can't groom young children. Yeah. And to them, it's...
This motherfucker... Oh, my God. I'm not even... Oh, my Lord. Okay. All right. This is just... Holy shit.
It's Armageddon, and that's because they know they have to indoctrinate the kids into this madness very, very young.
The supposed indoctrination of the nation's children isn't just in schools, according to conservatives. It's also in media.
Now it's all about pushing a sexual agenda on little children across their entertainment platforms.
You don't have to be afraid to, like, let's have these two characters kiss. Let's, in the background, I was just, wherever I could, just basically adding queerness.
They've been really open to exploring queer stories.
Disney wants to completely take your children and they want to indoctrinate them into sexual, immoral filth.
The fact that we are trying to accelerate our kids in this direction is incredibly concerning. For me as a parent,
the fact that they want to sexualize our children and our children's childhoods for their own political agenda is incredibly disturbing. Instead of making...
Okay. Before this continues, I have to say something here. Gay people exist in society, okay? Trans people exist in society. Lesbians exist, okay? Fuck it. You know, bi visibility. Bi people exist. Ace people exist. These are just like human beings, you know, just like you and I. I might be a dirty cishet breeder, okay? But, you know, this is something that I acknowledge, okay? As an LGBTQIA+ foe, I acknowledge that these are people that are live and alive. Cat's out of the fucking bag. Toothpaste out of the fucking tube, okay? Can't put it back in. So the mention of such realities in popular culture is not grooming. The mention of such reality in the real world, what is going on in the real world, is not in some ways nefarious. The only people that think it's nefarious and disgusting and bad are people who are just bigoted and think that you can catch the gay by, I don't know, seeing it in movies and shit. Ironically, it's grooming in the other direction when you try to hide it. And if it's so bad, don't let your kids watch it. It's so crazy. I mean, that's grooming. Like, that is grooming. When you're like, I won't let my kids watch that gay shit. Like, okay, what do you think? Like, you're gonna try to hide that reality from your children? That's what you're gonna try to do? You're gonna keep up this thing where it's like, no, gays are not around. That's not real. Of course, this is yet another nonsensical culture war fucking attitude, argument, whatever, but that will have a material impact on the lives of many LGBTQ people in the country. It's just another way to drum up support from some of the worst, most psychotic Republican voter base weirdos, okay? And now they're basically saying that, you know, the mere mention or the recognition of the existence of people that are LGBTQ in media is straight up grooming. The irony, of course, which makes it even funnier, there's two things I want to discuss here. One, this is deeply hypocritical coming from Republicans who love child beauty pageants and child marriages, okay? Straight up. And pedophilia and abolishing the age of consent. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you the party of Dennis Hastert? Really? You're gonna fucking act like, you know, you care about grooming? Holy fuck. That's actual grooming, dumbass. You can't, on the one hand, want to fuck children, and then on the other hand, be like, also, children learning about gay people is actually That's the real grooming. So if you do truly care about pedophilia, and you know, I do, then maybe do some housekeeping, you know? Clean up your own goddamn house. Okay, so trans is a pandemic and mentioning it is akin to grooming. So turning that around, does that mean people denying or playing down C-19 should be tried for million counts of attempted murder? Like, we got a whole party lost in the sauce. If you're ready, you're brain dead? Yeah. Now let's finish this, and then there's a really good video I'm going to show you about like who the real groomers are.
They're actually making films that will indoctrinate them.
Their main, quote, goal as a company is now to teach kindergartens in Florida that they can, in fact, change their gender just by wishing it so. It makes you wonder if kids in Florida can consent to chemical castration with no parental involvement.
This isn't programming. This is propaganda for grooming.
According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAIN, grooming is defined as manipulative behaviors that the abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, coerce them to agree to the abuse, and reduce the risk of being caught. So, not what Republicans are talking about. I spoke to Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD, to understand a bit more about Republicans' misuse of the word grooming. What are conservatives really saying here?
To put this in context, politicians who are anti-LGBTQ have been using this false narrative.
It's also fucking awesome because like they're doing the classic thing that Republicans love doing, where it's like you're a dumb guy and you're describing something that's like normal and innocuous and like a part of a healthy society, and you're turning it into like a nefarious secret thing. It's like, ooh, I'll describe it to you, okay? I'll use a different example that doesn't revolve around like education or children for a second. You mean to tell me that the government is going to assign a number for me at birth and document every little thing I goddamn do? Are you out of your fucking mind? No way in hell. Okay, Social Security. If you describe it like that to a bunch of fucking psychotic wingnuts, they're going to be like, oh yeah, you're right, brother. You're right. That's fucking bullshit. Like your Social Security number. Yeah, you know, we need to fight against that. You mean to tell me that I, as a red-blooded American, have popped out my child and have to send him to this other institution that the government controls, where an adult is taking care of that child and putting filthy communist propaganda like sharing is caring in the minds of my child, telling him that incest is not right? How dare you? Public education. You can make anything sound fucking insane if you are relying on how fucking stupid your captive audience is. And that is precisely what they do with the CRT stuff, and that's precisely what they're doing with the anti-LGBT stuff now. GOP is calling teaching and indoctrination just like they call anything race-related CRT. It's fucking despicable. Exactly.
Stereotype for decades now. LGBTQ people have been falsely accused of crimes and have not been hired as teachers all the way back to Harvey Milk and Anita Bryant days.
Yeah, good old days, brother. That's right. When them gays were behind closed doors, you know, when we could hide them, made sex a lot more, made my cruising a lot more fun. Very selfish, okay? I'm not playing into the meme that like every homophobe is secretly gay or whatever. Okay, that's played out and ironically homophobic. I'm not saying that, but like I do think that some of these motherfuckers want to cruise and they're like, it's more fun when it's like hidden, okay? They're just like selfishly, exercising their desires, okay? They're like, yeah, come on. Let's do it. I want to keep hiding it. It's just fucked up. It's fucked up, I know, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, all jokes aside, though, I've talked about this before where it is, I have been saying in all of my advocacy for trans rights over the course of the past, like, fucking, 6-7 years, very publicly, that the arguments launched against trans people were one, the exact same arguments launched against gay people. They were just literally changing one fucking word from gay to trans, because that was seen as like the acceptable target, okay? Once like the legalization of gay marriage happened, and that it was always going to revert back. I've also mentioned that, are you a chaser? No. I am not. We're not going to get into the chaser discourse. That's the fucking trans people business. I'm not going to open that door in any capacity, okay? It's way, way too complicated of a thing, okay? It's a fetishization, yada, yada, yada. This is like, you know, leave it up to the elderly trans, the trans council to fucking figure it out, and then we can describe it or talk about it. Don't do that. Don't do that thing where you like drop something completely fucking irrelevant to the conversation. Okay. So the talking points have always been the exact same. They're you know, faking it for attention. They're also fucking, you know, they're gay people are faking it for attention. Just like trans people are faking it for attention. Gay people are also, you know, predatory. They're grooming. Trans people are also predatory and grooming. These are all the same exact fucking arguments. Just like pushing people behind closed doors and hiding it. Like hiding just a very natural phenomena. Hiding a very natural fucking thing that occurs in the wild and has happened throughout history across every fucking culture in various different ways. And it's a very, you know, it's a really nefarious, really horrible, really fucking bigoted way and a cheap way to try to galvanize support. You know, some people are your friends for life until you are describing such things like this. They are now your real enemy. What? Sadly, the homophobic and trans rhetoric are the normative position. And for a ton of Americans, the F slur is simply a part of their vocab, even as an adjective, is really disgusting. Yeah. It's a committee, not a council. My bad, Chelsea. So none of this is new. And I've always said that progress is unstoppable, right? And perhaps I'm wrong in that assessment. I always say progress is like a river. You know, you can only stand in the way of it. You can put rocks, and that will turn into eddies. Okay, you have to constantly keep up support, because the moment that you stop, Republicans, reactionaries will come in and literally fucking turn around and revert that as best as they can. And this is a great example of this. You stop the pressure, you stop pushing, you stop focusing on you know, you go, hey, Brandon is here, it's time to go back to brunch, and boom, Republicans will use any mechanism of power they can, like the state legislatures now, to push for these insane, psychotic fucking bills like Don't Say Gay in Florida, while simultaneously creating national discourse around the conversation that associates being gay with grooming children. Being gay in public is now grooming children. That's the way they're operating. And for those of you asking what's the benefit of these bills, it's to create battle lines. That's what wedge issues are for. Even if most Americans don't give a fuck for the most part, okay? They can be molded, or at least those who are incredibly active in the political cycle, the actual voter base in the Republican Party that are very mad all the fucking time and are very deeply homophobic, that will go out to the fucking polls and vote. You're activating those guys by creating discourse around this issue. Let's continue.
Well, it sounds like the behavior of a sex offender. I mean, normal people don't sexualize underage children, period.
We are letting them control the narrative.
Once again, saying that gay people exist or showing that gay people exist is not inherently sexual. Just because heterosexuality is the normative position does not change the reality that, you know, gay people exist in society alongside straight people, okay? And the mere mention of that in popular art as a reflection of what's going on in society does not mean it is automatically and magically fucking sexual. However, that is the way that a lot of Republicans operate. You see a gay person, you see two gay men holding hands, that's sexual. That's sexual. They're doing gay sex. Why is it that when you see someone, when you see two gay dudes walking around, maybe even kissing each other, okay? Why is it that automatically you go to like, oh, they're having butt sex? Why? It's psychotic. It's insane. That's your fault. That's your problem. And most normal human beings don't do that. Most normal human beings don't fucking go into like, oh, they must be having butt sex right now. They're going to have butt sex after this. Yeah, that's right. They're going to fuck each other. They're going to fucking suck.
Narrative here, because these bills actually aren't even about that. These bills are about censorship. Mommy, Mama, and Me, which was one of my kids' favorite books, is not allowed in that classroom anymore. So my kids can read about a mom and a dad and a child, but not two moms and a child.
Exactly. That's it. Heterosexuality is the normative position. So obviously no one is ever going to question you fucking talking about moms and dads. That's normal. But when you talk about dads and dads, or you talk about moms and moms, oh, God forbid you talk about trans people, holy fuck, all of a sudden, that's grooming. That's wrong. That's morally abhorrent. That's actually sexual. That's sexual. That's deviant. You're grooming. You're grooming. You're grooming. Really damaging. Really fucked up. And it is a gigantic double standard, obviously. And this is why it's also fucking hard to defend shit like this from a leftist position, because you have to reshape the way that we understand certain things. It's like you're constantly going up against what is otherwise the normative position of like at least a century of Western dominated thought that goes all the way back to our puritanical values, that goes all the way back to like the church's involvement in trying to increase the birth rate, You know what I mean? That creates this understanding and concept that, like, you know, men fucking other men is actually somehow bad. Okay, there's a century-long effort that you have to go against when you're just literally fucking saying, look, this is normal. Okay, this is a natural thing. Please be fucking normal. Okay.
And therefore, the message that they are being sent is that they don't matter, that their family is less than. And that is the danger in all of this. Because if we look at what's going on with our LGBTQ families and our LGBTQ youth, they are under siege right now. In 2021, 1 out of every 4 LGBT.
Isn't that quite literally how being gay in public described in Soviet Russia, so not just Western? Yes, bourgeois decadence can sometimes be a substitute for moral degeneracy. In the Western world, fascists will call this moral degeneracy, moral decay, okay? Created by the Frankfurt School to destroy Western civilization, which is supreme. In certain fucking antiquated and conservative fucking, I guess, Marxist or socialist countries, I don't know why the fuck you're like immediately trying to find, you know, an example of Soviet Russia. Like, yeah, okay, they were homophobic. Give me a fucking break. I don't give a shit. I live in America, dumbass. Soviet Union is gone, okay? So you got it. That's true, but Lenin literally decriminalized gay sex. I know, and we've also talked about the Ottoman Empire also decriminalizing gay sex. Again, you can trace that attitude more so to the fucking Western world. That kind of counter back to the Western world before you fucking rush to be like, Stalin hated homosexuals. Okay, you got it. Hasan is unapologetically pro-Soviet in all circumstances, no matter what. Hasan is actually anti-gay now. What? First of all, I've been an LGBT foe. Do not misunderstand me. I am still an LGBT foe, okay? Not an ally, but a foe. What I'm talking about here is just different. Just don't, you know, it's irrelevant to my main position, which I am an unapologetic foe of the LGBT community. An enemy. A foe, an enemy. I love that people will like take that seriously. Some people now think that. You know what I mean? I've been Anyway, let's continue.
LGBTQ teen attempted suicide. Sit with that for a minute. And now this year, we've seen over 200 anti-LGBTQ bills that have been put forth. And half of those are anti-trans, and most of them are against our trans youth. What I'd love to see these politicians do is lift these kids up, is to help these kids and these families instead of pushing them down. There's an Equality Act that has been stalled in the Senate that would actually give us protections. There are a number of things that as an LGBTQ community, we're not safeguarded against. We can still be fired in some states for jobs. We could still be denied public housing. Them choosing to instead come after the community instead of help the community is a horrible, horrible thing. There's always time to redeem yourself. It's never over. And I think that, you know, I'd love to see some of them come to terms with this, because I guarantee there isn't a family in America that does not have an LGBTQ person in it. And that includes their families.
So, leave it to a woman to be traumatized over something that didn't happen to her? What the fuck? How did you find a way to insert misogyny into this conversation, brother? I mean, how? You know what? I would normally ban you, but I got to celebrate that for a second. Good one, dude. Fucking, that's awesome. Like, the person is literally like the fucking head of GLAAD, okay? And this guy came in, saw that, assumed that she's not LGBT, and literally was like, you know, fuck women. Oh, that's awesome. That's actually awesome.
Chat is wild.
That's wild.